This is the end of Sonic leaks, at least valid and confirmed ones, as following the events in this video, our only reliable leaker, Midori, has left the internet for good, and after everything I'm going to cover in this, I don't even think they're going to be able to come back if they wanted to. Now, having just spent way too long personally investigating this, while a lot of the accusations are confirmed true, and we will cover what's confirmed and what's just alleged, there's also some pretty dark and bad details that I'm not seeing anyone on an official basis cover. And at the same time, it doesn't seem like a lot of the claims being thrown around online are valid, and they don't even really have any backing or evidence to them at all, which, don't get me wrong, there are some pretty hardcore allegations being thrown around from, yes, the big P word, which if you're not familiar with, let's say my dog was named Fio. Well, they would be petting my dog Fio if you catch my drift. From that to claims of stalking, harassment, abuse, and more. But no matter where you look on the internet, and I'm genuinely not exaggerating when I say this, but there's utter hellfire, chaos, outrage everywhere around this entire situation. It was even trending on Twitter for multiple days in a row, something that hasn't happened since Midori brutally slayed Zippo in his now deleted blog post, which to this day was his last Sonic related post ever. Also, for clarity, there's a very vocal, sure, Midori was pretending to be a Japanese girl, which isn't great, but is it really that bad? Especially considering all their leaks were confirmed. And honestly, it is very possible these type of people are totally 100% in the right, but to know that, we have to look into this more, as apparently these allegations from their previous time as Mystic Distance go much deeper than that, which the Midori persona was just a means for them to try and escape their past while still posting leaks because they have a pattern of craving attention. Now, Zippo's probably at home watching this and applauding, since the communities that once declared Midori the winner of their beef have all taken a 180 and turned on Midori completely. Not that this makes Zippo any more credible, because he's really not, but at the same time, he's also not the male that today's video is focused on. And to be clear, as we're going into this, my goal is to find and cover the truth on the matter, so I'm not going to be unfair to Midori, but so you are aware, Midori has self-admitted and confirmed that a lot of what's covered here is completely true and is not speculation, which, in the interest of full fairness and context, I will be including her, I'm just going to be real, massive meltdown response to all of this surfacing, as well as Midori posting her final leak all right before deleting her account. And for an important correction, as what I just said will be the final time I'm going to be referring to Midori as a her or she, as one of the many things they got outed for, and the one most of you probably already know by now, is that the Midori account was not being run by a Japanese girl, but rather a white Jewish guy from Chicago named Ryan, which, while he's even been on the news and done convention panels in the past, so it's all public info, but regardless of how public it is, out of respect, I will not be saying or showing his last name or anything outside the name Ryan, since all of this is alleged, and we won't know until the end what's really true or not. Now, getting right into it, Ryan, aka Midori, previously went under the online persona of Mystic Distance, something that sounds like an auto-generated Xbox Live gamer tag, and this revelation is some of the most heartbreaking news this year for all the people who have been flirting and simping for Midori this entire past 365 days. Man, I can't imagine the shame you guys are feeling right now. However, the biggest issue I take with the situation, of course, don't really stem from Midori being a white dude LARPing, as while I can see why some people would be ultra triggered over that, I'm much more concerned with all the awful things I'm hearing alleged about Mystic Distance. Also, just so we're clear, before the stampede of angry comments pour in, no, they weren't trans, and this isn't anything like that. Although, Mystic probably could have just said they transitioned with Midori being their new identity, and they probably could have avoided a lot of the dunking on that they're experiencing right now. Although that said, that wouldn't have avoided the backlash of pretending to use broken English to appear as more Japanese, as well as the utter cringe of basically going,
"Oh, well, I am girl, teehee. I'm just shy girl who have boyfriend and want to be friends with everyone and spread leaks and positivity, oh."
I even feel embarrassed having just said that. But alas, to get to the origin of how this happened, it all began with a document on Midori that was written by, quote, a large group of 3 different communities discussing it and meeting with the various people who've interacted with him over the past year. So I will be putting some excerpts from it here, but won't be reading it in full, as it has 3 major faults. 1, it's extremely long. 2, it's written so obnoxiously that it's somewhat painful to read. And 3, the vast majority of it is just trying to connect Mystic Distance to Midori, something they admitted to instantly. So I'm much more interested in the other aspects of this drama as we get it. that Midori feller sure got them a pecker, but shucks, it's a darn small one at that. And this is more so of a, hey, not only do I wonder if these allegations are true, but did you unironically push the Smash Ultimate Grinch leak? I'm sorry, but if you actually thought that the iconic Video Games Hall of Fame roster would induct the Grinch into it, it's over for you. Your life's prospects will only go downhill from here. So just like a Nintendo Direct, let's first delve into this document here before we get to the third-party allegations. Also, I'm pretty sure I forgot to say it, but you know, like and sub, it's a free way to support me if you like the content. That's the only show I'm going to be doing, okay? See, it's over. Now, the document's first paragraph focuses on connecting the dots and explaining how Midori got their leaks. And remember, I did warn you that it was written very obnoxiously, but an excerpt from it reads, his method of getting sources was very similar. Lots of domain/server crawling and a lot of shoddy leaks being traded for real leaks. His Nintendo codename leaks, you can get that far off of crawling their servers, but you won't get any further into the folders. As far as we're aware from talking to real leakers, think the EGS data leak today, which for context, they're referring to the Epic Game Store. What leak in particular they're talking about, I have no clue. But as we'll see going through this, whoever is writing this document is so far up their own in the leaker community. Like, it's insane. His Sega leaks, internal 2021 to 2023 presentations showing their next year's plans. Nothing about Persona 6 in there. And after talking to some Sega staff, we're confident he doesn't have a Sega source of his own, but instead said internal presentations were handed off to him. A lot of this was obviously very accurate, but he was out of leaks. That's the main thing that tipped us off. He didn't have a real source. He traded info for Square Enix leaks. He didn't have a source. Some of the stuff he knows is also just blatantly wrong, as shown by him being wrong earlier today. The Xbox showcase leaked in full in private circles, so we know he didn't have a source for that. Which again, for context, these private circles he's referring to is like, imagine how toxic a Coughing and Ekans is, right? Their Pokemon. Well, this community is like every single member is either a Coughing or Ekans. So we know he didn't have a source for that, or he wouldn't have done his usual, there's these things at the showcase by Square to be excited, and still managed to fuck it up. We knew there was nothing besides Life is Strange, so titles was always going to be wrong. And for context, Midori made one of their cryptic hint posts saying, indeed, Square Enix would be showing off multiple new titles, and since their account was deleted, this has been archived by the gaming forum Icon Era, which confirms that it is true. Midori did say that there was going to be more shown at the Xbox showcase, which we now know was what Square Enix showed off at Summer Games Fest. So due to the closeness in events, their source incorrectly thought they would be revealed at the Xbox showcase, something that, to be fair to everyone, the document is correct on. So a point against Midori here. And I didn't mention it, but yeah, the doc also includes how they got their Sega leaks from a leaked presentation they were given. However, there is no definitive proof of that here. And to be fair to Midori, this is a claim they refute in their extremely long-winded response, which I'll be covering in full after the important context of the original doc and previous allegations as Mystic. But as for this claim, Midori specifically writes, quote, many of the claims in the document are false. Most of the information I have received has come from people who have decided to share it with me. I have only shared information because I did not want people sharing info with me, and for me to not do the same. The document goes on to lengthily explain all the many ways they put together that Midori is Mystic Distance, which, with Midori confirming, isn't really necessary to cover anymore, so we'll skip past most of that. Now, the next noteworthy part of the document is something Midori responds to very much in depth in their, response, so I do think it's important for context. And remember, this document is supposedly written by 3 different communities, but in my opinion, this next part, especially with all its many grammar errors, reads like it was written by 3 people max, and somewhat angry and spiteful ones at that. But I'll leave that all up to your interpretation. So the document reads, why are we coming forward? Simple, because it's creepy that our mutual is catfishing an entire community. It's creepy as hell it's being done as a Japanese girl, even though she happens to be asleep 5 to 10 p.m. Japan time or 4 to 9 a.m. in their local time zone. Anyone could have just scheduled tweets for those times, but nope, they needed to reply to people for clout. We're also not happy that he's fishing through our friend group for actual leaks, since he's all but bone dry on major scoops. Stop doing that. You aren't that guy, and it's really weird to sociopathically join join friend groups under a fake persona, ! Just to get information out of them in secret? We wouldn't have cared if it was just on Twitter, but there's people who have talked to you and Pan. Who, for clarification, I have no clue who the Pan is. Even through all my research, nobody named Pan came up once, and it's not explained anywhere who they are. The only thing I can assume from some context clues and hints is maybe they're in a relationship with Midori, but I don't know why it was mentioned if they're not going to include who the is Pan. Now, the doc continues. There's people who talked to you and Pan for almost a year now and thought you were someone you weren't. The idea of getting told you're a fake leaker and proceeding to pretend to be an Asian woman with a full Discord account you're interacting with people on, it as is problematic at the least. Get over your god complex. You don't need to basically stalk Sega to get leaks for them, and it's creepy to the employees directly, especially on the smaller details you're writing down. You aren't doing anyone a favor. Leaks are cool and all, but this is problematic behavior. Stop. Ooh, and you know, Midori is probably in the wrong, but every time I hear the word problematic, like a painful shiver gets sent down my spine. Rumor has it, if you use the word problematic in a sentence 6 times, you will become instantly paralyzed. Your spine just can't take it. Now, in this one paragraph alone, there was quite a lot of allegations made, but regarding it, nothing detailed here or even to the end of this document includes any info about anything regarding stalking Sega or its employees or even stalking in general. And I had to do some digging for this, but the closest thing I was able to find was a reported account by quite a lot of people that they went into Sega's offices in Japan pretending to need to charge their phone so they could go into their lobby and just hang out. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying similar details, but no matter how searched, I can't find almost any evidence or any even accounts of this. From everything I've read, it seems like he just sat in the lobby, which is definitely weird and cringe behavior. I don't know if I'd classify that as stalking employees, but let's continue as there are much larger claims that have come up in relation to this. So while looking up information about them trespassing, I found a Reddit post that was swiftly deleted by the mods on r/persona, asking the simple question of, so what do we actually know about Mystic Distance? And the contents of the post outside the title are now gone from its deletion, but the top reply I think cements a narrative I've been seeing everywhere and totally changes everything about this, if true. And the if is very important. So a user responds to the original poster's question, asking what Mystic did, and they write, besides being a never once correct leaker and harassing Sega employees enough to be put on a blacklist and potential cupcake, think he also harassed other people too in the fandom on whatever website he was a part of? That's all I gleaned from what people talked about. To which the OP responds, Jeebus, I heard about the accusations, but I just learned about the Sega employee a few minutes ago from Twit. I can't believe he's still trying to make a comeback. And if your jaws kind of dropped, you're like, what? He's petting Fio? Well, another user comes in asking how that is and for some more info, to which the poster who, called him that, clarifies, I haven't seen proof, but others apparently started to share it online. He was talking to some 16-year-old girl trying to get things out of her. IMO, this is all alleged until further notice, but that doesn't make him less of a scumbag. But also, I've not been able to find any proof or actual accusations to any of this. I'm just seeing it repeated everywhere, from Twitter to Reddit to even the comments on these type of YouTube videos. And to make an accusation this damaging, while there are people doing these exact behaviors and enabling these type of people lurking in our community, by our community I mean the Sonic community, obviously not my specific community, then these type of evidenceless allegations just hurt the people that there is definitive proof and evidence of. And if there is any proof of this, which I mean it's a pretty provable thing, right? If there's DMs with someone, you can just screenshot that. I would obviously turn and be like, down with Midori. But the most important thing here is that nobody is posting that evidence or even looking for the truth. Everyone is just hearing something and then going, oh wow, that's crazy, I guess that's true, and running with it. It's like the world's most dangerous game of telephone. Even Kotaku and all the games outlets who covered this, while looking for anything to back up these claims, I'd like to note that not a single outlet included anything regarding these allegations. The closest thing I was able to find is a Twitter DM exchange from two people saying this. I just put it on screen because it's a lot to read, which if true is awful, don't get me wrong, but after the Dream situation where there was a lot more fake proof than just a single screenshot screenshot of two seemingly random people saying, oh yeah, did Mystic do that to you? Yep, did it to me too. With no screenshots of conversations with actually Mystic or anything that could resemble proof, then this is life-ruining stuff, and to just say it without evidence is low-key extremely insane. If you're the type of person to say,
I don't need to see evidence. Someone on Twitter said it. That's good enough for me.
You might just be like a terrible person. And for your source to be a tweet of someone else doing the exact same thing, just saying it without evidence, is even more insane. The original document ends with, putting the leaker business aside, 2 other people in the group said they were going to post this if I didn't do it from a throwaway. So this information wasn't staying private beyond the week anyways. There's plenty more, but we're trying to do you a favor and not make this worse than it has to be. So it's possible there is more and there's actually worse stuff. At the same time, and this is something I'm going to go into, but with us possibly knowing the identity of one, if not the only person writing this document, I will say that it's not clear how much of this is just vague and ominous, purely out of spite, as this person hates Midori. The doc in its last sentence writes, Mystic Distance becoming an Asian woman and getting a single set of presentations and drip feed leaking them doesn't make him suddenly credible after 10 years of being wrong. Which I actually think is fair and valid. It seems his history as Mystic Distance was pretty flawed, and with him reappearing with new information and a new identity, it's obvious that the people who hated him from before are sure to return with this final revelation. It's like when Rooster Teeth closed and everyone was like, man, I used to watch them as a kid, and I go, man, I'm still watching these guys. What's wrong with me? With Midori, all we know for sure is the current reality seems to be that they're just a leaker with a pretty bad reputation, partially for getting things wrong and partially for being a weirdo. And once they did receive a bunch of actual legitimate leaks, they crafted an anonymous new persona to post them, which, while again, it's creepy and weird that they chose to be a Japanese girl and wrote things like, quote, finally, I created Discord accounts. Thank you for friend requests, but I have a boyfriend, so I don't want to date right now. You can date in Persona games, so you can do that instead. I hope you find cool girlfriend soon. This is something I struggle to keep composure while reading. And this is like top tier cringe, right? But at the same time, I don't think just charging your phone in a lobby is the equivalent to stalking people, and unless more info comes out about these allegations, they do seem pretty baseless. Midori's not going to come back, so I gain nothing from debunking these falsehoods, but at the same time, the person behind this, Ryan, is a real person. And now that their real-world identity is very tied to all of this, it is important to be cautious when throwing out these allegations unless there's sufficient evidence. If there's not evidence, you're just committing and life-ruining for zero reason. And when there is sufficient evidence, I think you should come out and talk about it. This isn't like to try to get people to not come out, obviously. Now, as for Midori Distance, while it's extremely long, I want to read his final response to the matter. Well, technically they posted a leak after this, but that got deleted alongside their account, and I do have an archive of it. But regarding the drama, this is Midori's final response. And their final series of posts go, the rumors about my identity that have started to spread and will continue to spread recently are correct information. Oh my god, we're still doing the broken English thing? Oh, it was funny at first, but as there's like 20 tweets, it's going to get really annoying. It is only ironic that I'm corroborating information that will almost assuredly end the long journey that has been had with this account. I will not deny the rumored information that the account that has been known to many as Midori, and they say they're terrible at MBKKSSTBHZ5, is indeed Mystic Distance. Who is more obnoxious? This is like the most obnoxious way you could have written this. Just say I'm Mystic Distance. I think many have been aware of this for a long time now, but if they were, they chose to say nothing. I appreciate that. Many of the claims in the document are false. Most of the information I have received has come from people who have decided to share it with me. I have only shared information because I did not want people sharing information with me, and for me to not do the same. I won't spend most of my time denying many of the claims made in this document. I think it's pointless to do so, whether the claims are true or not. If it's over, I think it should end as respectfully as possible to all sides involved, and I'm not going to fight against this. Which I think is supposed to come off as like honorable, but if you genuinely don't believe these are true, then you should give your side, because while it's possible a lot is unfounded and baseless, some of it genuinely isn't, and it's hard to decipher what's true or not if the person it's about doesn't even care enough to try and debunk it. Why should I care if Midori doesn't care? And they continue, instead, I will dedicate this thread to discussing the reasons behind why I made this account. This account was made to market my love for Atlas and Sega titles in a way that was not linked to me. I did not expect this account to ever have become become as notable as it has. Which, like, if you didn't expect it to be noticeable, maybe you would have a problem with, you know, games journalists covering you, doing interviews, reaching out to Twitch streamers. Like, Midori, there's a lot you could have done if you weren't in it for the clout. And I am trying to be fair to Midori, but come on, let's be 1000% real here. They continue, being able to report on Atlus and Sega in my own way while not being constrained to who I was before was liberating for me. I was very happy to hopefully have shared information on a developer that is very integral to who I am over the past year. And they're saying their leaks are like integral to who they are as a person. I mean, I guess I get that as like the Sonic News guy YouTube, but I don't know. Spending like 1 billion hours editing videos does feel different to me than just writing, ooh, I am girl, teehee, I have leak. Midori continues, when I made the account, I wasn't thinking of a gender or even a region for the persona of this account. The intention was not to fool people into thinking I'm an employee to get inside information on Atlus or Sega titles. This is why I do not refer to myself as a leaker, which the first sentence is simply, it can't be true when they've literally tweeted multiple times that they are a girl, as well as advertising their Discord and privately engaging with it, and everyone involved has a girl. Midori continues, this is not to absolve myself of responsibility. I am extremely sorry to all of the people who have followed this account who now feel misled and are questioning who Midori really even is. The Midori persona as it is may not be a real person, but it is what I believe to be an accurate representation of a real person, albeit in a particularly strange way that I wish I did not use, but it was never used to manipulate anyone or to appear more credible. All right, Midori, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to call 1000% bullshit. This isn't like an accurate representation of a real person already, because like, what? Are you saying you're pretending to be, what? What are you saying? Also, it was used to manipulate or appear more credible. Otherwise, you would have just said your mystic distance. That's the whole point of the persona. What? If you didn't have such a bad reputation of being incredibly inaccurate and uncredible, then you wouldn't have to use a new persona that's entirely unattached, anonymous. But Midori continues with what I think is maybe their worst response of all of them, and they write, and this persona was never used to catfish anyone or garner more followers. In all honesty, I decided on this persona at random. There was never an intention behind it. And as I have stated previously, no monetary gain has ever been made from this account. Which, while I'm trying to be very neutral to both sides, you have to admit this is a point against Midori when they literally created the identity and used messages to catfish for information and more leaks. Sure, they might have not done it for money, but they did it for the satisfaction, which is borderline worse. I mean, everyone likes money, right? But the narcissism of getting off on leaking stuff and pretending to be a girl is kind of psychotic. Midori can try to say the identity was totally random, but isn't it a strange coincidence that the random identity isn't something like a ginger guy, but particularly an Asian girl who everyone knows is a magnet for these super weird terminally online types? Also, you know, quite literally the opposite of what you are. Midori continues, and you know what, actually, I changed my mind. This is the worst response. And they write, this is a bit of a personal segue, but I started using this account after finally being consistently prescribed ADHD medication. And if you knew me before, I think that it will explain a lot about how the behaviors on this account are much more stable than my previous one. And personally, me, Jaden, as someone who everyone knows has ADHD, I mean, literally, even if you've never heard me say it, you could just assume it from my editing style. But to blame catfishing as an Asian girl on ADHD, as well as being like, hey guys, if you think I'm unstable now, just imagine how I was on my previous account, teehee. Like, way to go, champ. Is this your way of subtly acknowledging that a lot of the mystic distance allegations are true? Because legitimately, I have no clue why this response about ADHD was even included or what relevancy it plays into this entire thing. Now, Midori continues, I do believe that the call-out post that has been made is targeted. I do not believe that the post that has been written is in good faith, nor does it represent the purpose of this account. I believe the person or persons behind it did not have positive intentions. Which again, Midori keeps flip-flopping on whether they want to defend themselves or not, but here they're just saying it's in bad faith, which doesn't even mean it's untrue. It just means they had bad intentions. Something that doesn't even discredit the actual evidence it's been posting. And just saying, it's not true without any receipts is no better than the people making these crazy allegations, similarly with no evidence. Midori continues, given the call-up post and the way in which my previous name has gone around, I think it justifies the move to use a persona, even if that persona is using broken English and pretending to be a Japanese girl. I'm just kidding. She actually wrote, mostly represents my love for Atlus and Sega titles. I'm sorry, but if you actually believe Midori and they're pretending to be an Asian girl, not because they're catfishing, but because they just love Sega and Atlas. I also don't even know how this correlates, given Midori was using this persona long before the call-out post and the publicizing of their true identity. Like, they're just trying to justify it with the fact that the internet is imploding on them, but the internet is imploding because of their persona, not the other way around. And this is something everyone should know already and be aware of, so again, I question why this was even included. It just makes them seem like they're reaching for any branches to save themselves from their inevitable fall from grace, or more of like a tree, and they're like a monkey grabbing from branches, but there's no grabbing and you're gonna fall and die. Midori continues, when I made the posts I did a few years ago, it wasn't in so much that I worried that my identity getting out would ruin my insider information. I did not really care. In all honesty, I was and still will receive information. I don't know why I called attention to it. And for context, as Midori had learned that the doc writer had caught on to them and was about to publicize it, in a PR move that actually worked for a good day or two, Midori claimed someone was trying to stalk them because they're a Japanese lady. Something that the doc clarifies not only isn't true, but it couldn't even be possible considering Mystic was lying about being in Japan and was actually in Chirac. This Chicago! Midori continues, but I don't think that would have ever made a difference in the long run. I think as this account continued to grow in notoriety, the truth would have eventually come to light. It would have been impossible to continue like this under a persona for so long, which, like, yeah, no, I can't even believe you got away for it this long. You were DMing Fidel Games Cage and he thought he was talking to an Asian woman. That's insane. And I do not make the claims that this call-out post is targeted without merit. I strongly believe that the call-out post going around was done to ensure I have no place in the community. I don't believe this was done out of legitimate care for Atlas and Sega fans. To which, like, no fucking shit. Of course it wasn't done for the care of fans. If it was, they would just leak the next game. This is made so that everyone knows their favorite leaker is not a Japanese girl, and you really need to stop simping for her because it's not much of a her. And Midori includes these DMs, which I put on screen, and they do this again one more time, but to be honest, I'm not getting anything from these. They blacked out who the DMs are even from, and we don't see both sides, so it's just someone asking if Midori is someone they knew, since they knew they shared the same sources. And honestly, that's a fair question and doesn't give off bad intent at all. So again, like a lot of this response, I don't know why it's here. Midori continues, these messages were sent by someone interrogating me for more information, proving I am who I claim to be. And while doing so, they continued to ask me for documents and footage for unannounced titles. This was someone I genuinely cared about and supported as Midori, which, by the way, they literally just admitted they catfished. They just said they cared about someone under a fake persona. We got them. And there's another 2 DMs included, these ones over Twitter and with Midori, but again, they don't seem to make much sense since there's absolutely zero context here. We don't know what they're talking about. They're just saying something is high stakes and they're debating doing something about it. Now, what that something is, I don't know. And this is seemingly intentional on Midori's side, as I can imagine, like most similar situations where people only show half context, if you were to show the full context of these messages, it would make Midori look really bad. It reminds me of when Gamer Guide snipped our DMs, and it's because, yeah, the full context made him look really bad. Otherwise, there's zero reason to just snip these tiny random segments. And the only other possibility could be that they're just like crazy and clinically insane, I guess. So we'll continue with Midori's response, and she writes, oops. I won't tell anyone what to feel or what I think they should do in this situation. That isn't my place. I know there are people who are reading this post who feel betrayed. I will not invalidate your feelings or decision to walk away or voice your feelings. Like, okay, so you do disagree and you are against it, but like you're not going to invalidate it. I hate when people say that. I think that with all of this being mentioned, the journey has come to a close. Thank you all for supporting me over this past year. I'm extremely grateful for all of the kindness and support, as well as positivity you shared, and I'm happy that I could be there for a part of it. Wow, how sentimental, Midori. Wow, a real tearjerker. It is my hope that my genuine passion for Atlas and the community was able to resonate through every tweet I posted and all of the information I shared. And even if this may be over now, I am extremely fortunate that this even happened in the first place. Which, again, Midori, how touching. But it is a little convenient that you mentioned Sega and Atlas leaks that you're so passionate about in this, but you only just started doing Sega leaks. You were always an Atlas person, and before then you were doing Nintendo and a bunch of other stuff. Did you kind of like forget about that? Remember the Smash Grinch leak? Remember that one? I do. And Midori gives their final 2 tweets, writing, "I am extremely sorry to anyone who has enjoyed this account over the last year, who now feels hurt and betrayed. There is nothing I can do to mend those feelings." Well, actually there is, just not pretend to be a girl and DM people saying you're a girl who has a boyfriend. Over the coming months and years, more and more of the unannounced information I have posted will be revealed. Of course, some plans will probably change too. I hope everyone is excited for what they can expect from Atlus and Sega going forward. Thank you for reading this. Which, at the end of the day, my entire purpose here is to just get down to the truth. And it appears, at least to me, that Midori is guilty of pretending to be a Japanese girl, and despite what they said, was what definitely 1000% catfishing both publicly on Twitter and privately through DMs. But while what Midori did was indeed, decently bad, with a lot of the more serious allegations having no evidence, I just don't think it's right to claim things like the Agent P word and abuse unless further proof comes forward, which, with Midori having now left all accounts and the story for the time having gone completely cold, I think this is the end of Midori and maybe even the end of confirmed Sonic leaks as a whole. In fact, likely, since the only other person in my entire 5-year career we've had is Zippo, and we all know about Zippo, okay? Which, quick note, I'm seeing a lot of people saying Midori's on Twitch. It's literally just some dude who has their handle on Twitch. Midori never even had a Twitch account. Anyone falling for this is like brain rot stupid, so I haven't seen it too much, but I thought I'd just get ahead of it in case there's a couple comments being like, actually Midori's on Twitch and they're using a voice changer. No, dude, anyone can just register their weird long like MBKH57, like anyone could just register that on any website. If I were to like register Koban Armani on like TikTok, that wouldn't mean I'm Kobe, obviously. So if you like my coverage of this, drop a like. I think I did a good job trying to, make jokes and stuff while maintaining objectiveness, since I really don't care about any of the parties involved here. Like, this means so little to me. This means about just as much to me as when Drake Schlong got leaked. Double check you weren't randomly unsubbed from your local raccoon detective who might have another investigation coming soon, perhaps a way bigger one. And lots of love. Not to the people in this video, but to you, the viewer. And, peace. Peace! Bye-bye. Bye. Subscribe.